A wild parrot is foraging around, searching for seeds to bust open with its magnificent beak. After some time, it takes flight, and its iconic, dazzling feathers are on display in the sky. Returning to its nest in the macaw farm, it discovers it has been destroyed and ransacked. The young are missing and are never to know freedom again. Stolen away before ever even learning to take flight, as it was taken when it was still only a nestling. This is reality for tens of thousands of parrots every year in the Amazon region and surrounding countries. The predictable seasonality of parrots makes it easy to know their behavior and when they are easiest to capture. Additionally, they often return to the same nesting sites year after year. They are collected by hand. They are taken by rural locals who live in and around the habitats these various parrots exist in. A farmer, a rancher, a logger, the unemployed, or anyone else looking to turn a profit, and who know that these birds are always in demand by entrepreneurial criminals. They will keep them like chickens and wait for the fencer to arrive. These villagers are opportunistic and often impoverished and see these birds as a means to supplement their income. The economic link is clear. In 2020, during the early stages of the COVID-19 pandemic, Brazilian highway police seized 500% more trafficked wildlife than in 2019, only 1 year earlier. For the bird, the poacher will receive a payment that is on average 10 to 20 times lower than the amount the bird will be sold for once it arrives at its international destination, but it is a payment all the same. A fencer will reach out and purchase them. He is known as an itinerant fencer, a wildlife trader that will travel around the countryside buying up poached birds and taking them back with him to cities with bustling markets. If the locals already have pet parrots, and many do, they must sell them in urban markets or export them overseas. More common parrots, such as the orange-fronted parakeet and the Mexican parrotlet, two of the three most poached species in Mexico, will be sold cheaply on the streets and in city markets. They are common birds and are therefore the most available. Rarer parrots command higher prices and more effort to send them abroad, where their prices will increase dramatically, such as the scarlet macaw or the hyacinth macaw, which can go for as much as $10,000 in the United States.
They will be taken to a launderer, where their identity will be erased and origin obscured. Here at this place, perhaps a zoo or a legal breeding farm, papers will be forged and they will be made to appear legal. This certificate allows their exportation to anywhere in the world. Where are the authorities in all this? Understaffed, underfunded, and lacking resources of every kind. In Bolivia, the main authority charged with policing wildlife trafficking is known as POFOMA, or the Forestry and Environmental Protection Police. Their main office, in the Bolivian capital of La Paz, is an old house, and the central courtyard is used as a makeshift wildlife rehabilitation center. They still use physical records instead of a digital database. They lack vehicles, equipment, and bodies to fill uniforms. Wildlife trafficking is small potatoes when most attention is firmly fixed on the drug trade.
The ethical dilemmas surrounding the decline and conservation of South American parrots are deeply rooted in past exploitation, current threats, and uncertain futures. Historically, parrots have been the most commodified for their beauty, intelligence, and exotic appeal, becoming one of the most heavily traded bird families in the world. The allure of the pet trade led to widespread nest poaching throughout the neotropics, where up to 30% of parrot nests were raided in some regions, with figures exceeding 70% in others. This unchecked extraction, compounded by habitat destruction, caused significant population declines and endangered numerous species, highlighting an early ethical dilemma: the conflict between economic incentives for local communities and the conservation of irreplaceable biodiversity. Today, the ecological consequences of this decline have come into sharper focus. Parrots are not just beautiful creatures, they are often considered keystone species in their native ecosystems. Many parrot species are primary seed dispersers and even ecosystem engineers. They help regenerate forests by transporting seeds over long distances and opening tree cavities that other animals later use for shelter or nesting. The loss of these ecological roles can trigger trophic cascades throughout the environment, such as disruption of plant regeneration cycles, reduced forest diversity, and impacts on other species that depend on parrot-modified habitats. These ripple effects add another layer of urgency and ethical complexity to their decline. Protecting parrots is not just about preserving a single species, but about safeguarding entire ecosystems. Although legislation like the U.S. Wild Bird Conservation Act of 1992 helps curb international demand, the illegal trade persists, particularly within domestic markets in countries such as Mexico, Bolivia, and Peru. Furthermore, parrots are now threatened not only by direct human exploitation, but also by disease. Beak and feather disease virus, also known as BFDV, an emergent and highly contagious illness facilitated by the global pet trade, poses a significant biosecurity threat. It has been detected in wild and captive parrots across continents, including previously unaffected regions of South America. This introduces new ethical concerns around disease spread through the trade and potential impacts on both native and introduced populations, especially in biodiversity hotspots. Looking to the future, conservationists face ethical challenges in balancing intervention with respect for local autonomy. Should efforts focus solely on habitat protection, or should they also involve invasive eradication and disease control, potentially disrupting local ecosystems? Additionally, if parrots are to be reintroduced into the wild, how do we ensure their immunity from diseases like BFDV while maintaining genetic and ecological integrity? These questions underscore the need for globally coordinated policies that go beyond banning trade to address underlying socio-economic drivers, biosecurity threats, and habitat degradation, challenges that will define the future ethical landscape of parrot conservation.
Because the original crime in these cases is often not driven by greed, but by poverty and opportunity, finding solutions that empower these communities are essential. One way of doing this is the development of incentive-based conservation programs that offer economic alternatives to illegal poaching and reward conservation. Training local people as nest monitors, wardens, and ecotourism guides can decrease poaching rates incredibly. This is evident in a Bolivian case study that found parrot poaching rates to be 79% lower in locally protected sites in comparison to unprotected ones. If conservation and protection are made more incentivizing, then the actors who would once contribute to the problem can become central to the solution, shifting from exploiters of biodiversity to its stewards. While empowering local communities and offering economic alternatives to poaching is a critical step, it's only one side of the equation. Even with reduced supply at the source, the illegal parrot trade continues to thrive through deceptive tactics further down the chain. Most notably, and as talked about earlier, through bird laundering. Bird laundering is the process in which wild-caught parrots are falsely labeled as captive bred, effectively making these illegal birds legal for distribution nationwide. This leaves the consumer oblivious to the source of their new pet. To limit the laundering system, legal breeders need to be held to a higher standard with stricter, more rigorous databasing requirements and higher rates of random auditing. Although this creates more red tape for legal breeders, it is essential for animal welfare assurance, consumer protection, and supply chain visibility. This is crucial for birds like the blue-headed parrot that have both legal and illegal markets. Combined, attacking both the supply through incentive-based community involvement and illegal exports by increasing supply chain transparency, parrot poaching will not only be harder, it will be harder to get away with.
We have lost so many parrots that future generations will only ever experience as a still image. No vibrant tail feathers in motion. No charismatic squawking, chirping, or whistling. The last confirmed sighting of our own sorely missed Carolina parakeet was gone from the wild even before the outbreak of World War I. It's important to remember these birds and to think of them often, because it is only that acute sense of loss which will drive us to conserve the parrots still here. Many parrots are staring unknowingly down the barrel at threats intangible and abstract, which they cannot overcome on their own. Impoverished poachers, greedy criminal networks, a black market pet trade, which sees them as commodities instead of thinking and feeling creatures. It is another level entirely of ecological naivete, where simple parrots are now made to contend with economic forces and the demands of international markets. They need help. Through public-private partnerships which recognize countryside poverty and help to educate rural villagers, through health campaigns raising awareness of zoonotic diseases, through crackdowns in the funding of trafficking authorities, through international cooperation.
There is a way forward through the thorny brush, but it will not be easy. Nothing worth doing ever is.